Our business is broadcasting, and we're a new entry into the London radio market for the first time since 1999. There's been a new station added to the spectrum in London. When we had research done on the market prior to putting the application, we identified there was a great deal of out-of-market tuning and people that weren't even listening to mainstream terrestrial radio anymore, that just didn't like the mix that they were hearing. They wanted something that was a little bit older. We identified it as the hole in the marketplace that we could fill. Well, we entered into the market with an understanding that putting a radio station on the air that was the same as everybody else wasn't going to suffice. Our research indicated that people wanted a broader spectrum of music. They wanted, not that they don't like the hits, they still like the hits, but they also remember a time, especially the target audience that we're talking about, which is 35-54. I mean, they grew up at a time when albums were the be-all and end-all in music. I mean, you went out and you bought the Hotel California album and you listened to that entire album, and Frankton Comes Alive and the Boston and all of those albums. And yes, they still like the hits, but they also remember everything else that was played on that album, and they like those songs. Concern right now is the economy. The volatility of the stock market has a lot of people concerned. We're in an interesting period of time in that everybody's recommending that Canadians need to reduce the level of debt and start saving more money, and yet our economy growth depends on people spending money and increasing debt and buying more things, and that's going to impact not only local merchants but retail across the country. So people are concerned. They want to make sure that when they advertise and promote that they're getting what they need to get out of it to move their business forward. I guess more than anything, understand for business owners, it's important to understand how people engage with them when it comes to advertising. And there's every advertising medium has its strengths and weaknesses. And understand how it is people react. There's a couple of books that I think are key for business people to read, and one of the best books I ever read was called Positioning by Al Reese and Jack Trout. And this book talks about, and it was written, I'm going to say 35 years ago, and yet I still reread it every year because it reaffirms in my mind how do you get into someone's mind as a product or a radio station or whatever the case may be. How do you get to that top of mind awareness, that recognition? And it's not as easy as people think, but it's not as difficult as people think either. Hire intelligent people. Hire people that are curious, that have an innate curiosity, that like to read, that want to understand business, that are always looking, searching, reading more, wanting to understand more, not only about the industry they're in, but everything. You can't underestimate the value of somebody that has a curiosity about things in general. To me, it's been the most defining characteristic in the last 10 years that I've seen. People that are successful are ones that understand you have to read and understand and question. And are they sometimes difficult to deal with? Yes, they are. But the payoff at the end is you've got somebody that is a great employee and that understands, wants to grow and understand along with the business, and that's really important. BlackBerry. I'm attached to that thing 18 hours a day. It's how everyone gets in touch with me, whether it be text or, my email is wired into it. Don't get many phone calls anymore, which is maybe 2 phone calls a day, but I get hundreds of text messages and emails through it. As much as I see there's days where I'd like to throw the thing away, I honestly know that I couldn't do that. Desert Island album, I'd have to go with Duke and Genesis. That's always been my favorite album. That's concert. Supertramp at the JW Little Stadium, 1979 here in London. Knew a little bit about Supertramp at the time, but was absolutely blown away by that concert and went and bought every Supertramp album right after that.